What's up, everybody? Welcome on in. It is that time of week. It is Checks Notes. I think the last Sooners on Outside podcast of June officially will be on to July, which means we'll be on the media day season, all that fun stuff. And thankfully, what better than a national title to bridge the gap from the end of school, everybody moving out. Norman is a ghost town for now, but it'll be packed tonight, Wednesday evening, as Oklahoma is celebrating Skip Johnson and the baseball crew's magical run all the way through Omaha that ended on Monday night with a 13-2 victory over North Carolina. We got the whole crew here. Ryan Chapman, back from my travels. My travels not as in the mix or as exciting as fun as Hoov and Carson's. John was up in Omaha. What was it? A 12-day excursion. How did first off, before we dive into everything, Hoop, did you get to spend plenty of time with the nephew? Because I know OU kept everyone very, very busy out there in Omaha.
Yeah. So total travel thing stretch was 14 days away from home. Got in yesterday afternoon. So yeah, 14 days, man. It was special. It was a special trip. I got to say, I packed for basically 3 games. I packed for them to win one and lose two, or if they were able to win a second one and still lose two. You know what I mean? It was like you didn't expect this Oklahoma team, 34-22 in the regular season, 11th place in the SEC, 14-16 in Southeastern Conference play for the second year in a row. You did not expect them. No one did, outside of that dugout. No one expected them to do what they did or get as far as they did or play as long as they did or certainly to win the national championship. No one. And so, yeah, it was a special trip. My first national champion to cover at Oklahoma that wasn't Patty Gasso related. So my first actual time in the ballpark covering a team, an OU men's team, to win a national championship. So when you think about how old I am and how long I've been doing this, that's pretty cool. I walked away from that stadium. I'm like, wait a minute. I've never covered a national champion before. This is great.
He's very old. He's been working very. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. As far as that goes, for who Carson had been waiting in the wings. You're on an excursion through Colorado, and you knew the plan was in place. OU makes a champ series. You'll be up in Omaha. Carson, at what point during the week did you start to realize, like, hey, I know my plan is to jet up to Omaha if necessary, but I think I'm gonna be going to Omaha.
Yeah, when they beat Georgia the first time, I was like, oh crap, this might actually be happening. I admittedly picked them to beat Alabama. I thought that was a good matchup. Those games in the regular season were fairly close. I thought they'd get past that. I didn't expect them to limit Georgia's offense like they did. That Georgia team, if they were going to win that game, it would have had to be 12-10, something like that, I thought. But that was an awesome day by the pitching staff shutting them down. So that was pretty remarkable. And that just was like, oh crap, I got to figure this out. I got to pack. I got to do laundry, make sure my dog's all squared away. So got all that figured out though. And so glad I did because it was a remarkable few days in Omaha.
We'll have plenty from Hoov and Carson, obviously, as their boots on the ground. Aber and I were just watching from afar. I switched time zones a couple of times. I actually, boys, visited the birth of it all. When I was in traffic in Atlanta, there was a reroute that I told my mom. I was like, hey, if we cut through Georgia Tech's campus, we're going to miss this. And I'm sitting at a stop sign and looking up, and I look over to my left, Ryan, and there's Georgia Tech's baseball field. And I almost text you just like, who would have thunk it that when we were all just like watching back as Karsten Brady and Hoover grinding during regionals and supers, and Aber and I just texted back and forth going, well, this is kind of nutty. Who would have thought that that was going to be the birth of this incredible run through Omaha, Aber?
I know, it's just incredible. You should have taken a picture out from beyond the batter's eye, where you could probably see Dayton Taki's ball still flying over. But what a run for Skip Johnson and his group, and yeah, they just found some magic there in Atlanta and rode it all the way. And this was a team that early in the season was a top 10 team, and I think they were either in the top 10 or right bubbling outside, but this was a team that it looked like, hey, maybe this is a team that has a chance, and then fell off during SEC play, as got mentioned, 8,472 times during the broadcast. They lost their last 4 SEC series, but found a way to get it together at the right time. The pitching was phenomenal, especially the freshman arms. there, and then the hitting to have that kind of a switch flipped was just incredible. To see the job that not only Dayton Taki but Desan Harris and on and on and on down the lineup. Jackson Willits was just absolutely phenomenal during the College World Series, and it just seemed like every night it was somebody different coming through, and that was typified by Monday night's game when Branch drives in 6 runs and obviously turns in one of the moments of the tournament with his home run with his brother watching up in the stands.
Pretty incredible as things went on. I was just laughing with my mom as we were watching. She's like, we're sitting outside of Georgia Tech's baseball park with her OU alumni plates and all that stuff. We're in various sports bars in Atlanta. We were watching as Georgia beat Texas to stave off elimination, and then the next night, the mom rolled in with her like clear bag that has the Oklahoma strap on it. She's like, I don't know if we're in friendly territory. And I was like, Mom, the way that they're playing, I don't think anybody's going to say anything to you because they were one of the stories of the sports world. Let's start all the way at the beginning in Omaha, John. I know so much has been made and it's been talked about at various times throughout the season. We've talked about it, whether it's the starting pitching, the bullpen, the offense. They all had it cooking at different times, and it didn't all kind of come together here until the end, outside of when they were down in Arlington to start this thing. But what's so crazy about all of it is that it wasn't just the fact that you had started this thing off with great starting pitching to put Oklahoma in the not just the winners bracket, but in a big upper hand because they weren't having to really dive deep into the bullpen or anything like that. But the fact that Cord Rager was the guy that had started the year as the back end of the rotation starter, but one of the starters for sure. But then you had the role reversal between LJ and Xander Mercurius as it's the freshman younger brother that's going out there and punching Oklahoma's ticket in from, hey, this is a good story, hey, oh my gosh, to like, wow, this Oklahoma team might be the one that is the stars are aligning for this. And then Nick Wislowski, like it went from, hey, it wasn't LJ and Johnson and Cord, it was Cord and his 2 classmates that really got things going, and that really set the table. Those guys' ability, Skip had talked about it with you guys, he talked about with us on radio, that the teams that succeed in Omaha settle in quickly, and Oklahoma looked like they had made it their home, despite the fact that the last trip for the program was 2022.
When you think about 3 freshman starters in your rotation, the first team ever to do that and win a national championship in Omaha, 3 true freshmen. Cord Rager, by the way, does not look like a true freshman. He looks like Paul Bunyan. He looks like he's ready to go out and clear a forest with one swing of his axe, right, and his blue ox. The man's a lumberjack. He's a massive human being. He is in control, in command of his full arsenal of pitches, or he certainly was against Alabama in the first game. And I think he went finished 5 innings in the second game that he won. But to roll Xander Mercurius out there and then Nick Wislowski as your second and third options just shows that Skip Johnson knows a thing or two about pitching. He's got this little magic, little kind of insider. He can bring things out of people that they might not know they have inside, and he just has this quality to not only find those intrinsic kind of qualities in his pitching staff, but in his whole team as well. And if you talk to his administrators, you talk to his athletic director, you talk to anybody around him, they'll say immediately, hey, this is a reflection of Skip Johnson. This is a reflection of Skip. And the way that he's able to bring something that you have inside of you out is just remarkable. And Aber, you mentioned the rankings earlier. I think they got up to number 9 in the polls after starting 11 and 2, 16 and 2, something like that. Yeah, 16 and 2. And then they hit the skids and they go 18 and 20 over the next basically 2 months. And then the NCAA tournament starts and you're thinking, well, they barely got a 2 seed. What could they possibly do with it? They were almost a 3 seed. They ended up being a 31 ranked, 31st ranked team. And they go to the NCAA tournament and they go 11 and 2, and their only losses are to North Carolina and Georgia Tech. So something happened, something clicked, something along the way got this team to where they are. And when you break it down, just from what we saw in Omaha, you saw the Branch home run. We talked about that. Desan Harris's throw from right field on what should have been an RBI single to third base to get the guy out at third base before the guy at home plate scores. I don't think I've ever seen that in a baseball game before at any level, where you throw behind the lead runner and get the guy before the first guy can go 90 feet. I've never seen that in live action. The umpire jumped on it and said no run doesn't count. All those little bits and little pieces, guys, added up every night, and it was like you said, someone different. It seemed someone different contributing something big, something huge. Sometimes every game, you never knew who it would be. So that's just such a reflection. The thing about 1994, they always talked about their motto was 25 guys pulling on the same rope. That came up this year. I think it was Jason Walk who said that in one of the post-game press conferences. 25 guys pulling on the same rope. That's exactly what we saw out of this Oklahoma team.
And you look at it too. I feel like Carson, this resonates throughout the entire roster. Whether you look at everything that Camden did at third, even if it wasn't like gaudy numbers, what he did just saving runs in the field, Desan setting the tone. It felt like is saying that was going to be Oklahoma's night. Like when that happened, I don't know what the energy was like in the park, but at home I was watching, going, "Hey, I know it's a 2-0 game, and you go one inning beyond, and it's a 3-1 game." But then LJ Mercurius comes in, and that's another guy that. Man, Carson, if you have a team of a different character to have a guy go from starter to reliever, regardless of if it's a Skip's talking about, keeping as much juice in his arm and things like that, to switch roles with your younger brother, like there are a ton of other teams in the country that wouldn't have gone over perfectly, and yet LJ seemed to take his game to another level. It seemed like I just the arc of LJ. I feel like that kind of speaks to the whole team to a certain extent throughout this whole run.
It absolutely does. And I mean, this team's motto has been yesterday is dead. And there's nobody I don't think that embodies that as well as LJ Mercurius. Just looking at how sharp he was early in the season. SEC play is just totally rough on the guy. Finishes almost a 6 ERA by the time SEC play is done. Loses his starting spot. At one point, he was a Golden Spikes mid-season watch list guy. So that's how good he was early. Then obviously his ERA shows how bad he was in SEC play. But just being so electric out of the bullpen, starting with the postseason, just speaks volumes about his character, his belief in what they could do. I thought the quote that he gave after the game 3 about how the team was just still enjoying each other's company, laughing, having a Bible study, doing all of these things just to grow this bond of this team. Like you said, Ryan, there are a lot of teams that you lose 4 series in a row. You're at one point, Friday starter has an ERA near 6. I mean, that has all the makings of total collapse. And to see him be an ace out of the bullpen, have a huge spot in game 3, this team, of course, win the national championship. It does say a lot about LJ's character, but the character of all of the men in that locker room.
And it just feels like, too, these guys became such big cheerleaders for each other. I think one of the, things I'll remember from this team for years and years is just like, I know it's as simple, but you're batting, opposing coach rolls out there to have a conference at the mound, and it's the huddle every time. And it started as like, hey, we're huddled up. And then it just seemed like it was just guys being dudes. You know what I mean? Everyone has that team, whether they were in middle school, T-ball, if it was your high school team. To get that Aber on the biggest stage, I think you could see how quickly they were able to relax, because it was truly every single person was finding success, having fun. And that's part of why it felt like the offense 1 through 9, the Dayton Taki heater turned into a just raging fire up and down the lineup. Dayton LeChant, I mean, this became an Oklahoma team that suddenly is saying, yeah, we'll just hammer as many home runs at the chuck as you need for a team that's playing basically the minimum outside of the one hiccup to North Carolina.
Yeah, they did, and I mean, heck, you just think about late in Monday's game, the way that I'm trying to think who it was. It might have been Brendan Brock at bat, maybe it was Camden Johnson, was extending the at bat 8-9 pitches, and just the way that even up by, I don't think it was 13-2 at the time, might have been 10-2 or 9-2, but the way that they were living and dying in that dugout on every pitch, and how every foul ball, every ball taken outside the zone was celebrated by the entire dugout. And there's a great camera angle where you could see everybody right behind him, hanging on every pitch of that. And we've done a softball podcast enough. You know how often I bring up Skip Johnson and his approach to things during that. But I think this team just embodied that in every way. And it's sometimes easy to say, it's harder to put into action, but they were able to do it, and to do it from the position that they were in after the regular season and the SEC tournament, and make it a one pitch at a time, winning battles. I mean, one of the great lines that I've heard is Skip Johnson up there in Omaha saying, "Do you ever really win at baseball? You just keep playing it." And that's just who he is. And it bled through this entire lineup, and they bought into it in a way that I don't remember any team, buying into the coach's philosophy the way that this team did. And, there have been some great ones. Obviously, it's a very similar philosophy to Nick Saban and Alabama football when they were on their great run. But this team just up and down the lineup absolutely, embodied that mantra and carried it through the entire way.
Aber, I'll give you my parallel. It's the 2000 national championship football team. It's OU's first Big Three, baseball, basketball, men's basketball, and football since 2000. There's some similarities in that they came from nowhere, but football doesn't allow you the runway to come from nowhere and enter the postseason as an underdog. Back then, it was, you were either ranked number 1 or 2 to play for a national championship. But that team, that 2000 team, the NCAA tournament was that team's Red October. Did I say that right? Was this team's Red October? Yeah. They didn't get hot and announce their arrival until the postseason. So a little bit different in the way the schedule fell out, the way the season unfolded. But coming from nowhere, and nobody thought Stoops' 2000 team was going to be great, much less compete for and win a national championship. And that's the part that this team has taken on, is nobody thought they were going to do any of this, and they didn't until the NCAA tournament started, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I was on the radio last week and talking about, before the championship series, talking about unexpected titles in OU history. And to me, it's this one and the 2000 football national championship that are far and away above any. I know, that 94 baseball team that we talk about, wasn't the favorites going in, and they made an incredible run. I'm old enough to have remembered that, and the great Bucky Buckles and all of that group. But, just out of nowhere. But like you said, in football, you don't have the ability to do that. But I think that's the closest analogy for an OU national championship, previous national championship, to what we saw during this run. It was just incredible.
Well, it's a team, too, that, especially in the baseball world, I think it's hard, regardless of if they're not the national seed, if they're the 11th ranked team in the SEC. It's hard for an SEC team going on a Cinderella run through the NCAA tournament to capture the hearts and minds of the country. You know what I mean? Because most people that tune in and watch, they're just like, could we get anybody else? And especially in a tournament where you had West Virginia and everything that they were doing. Troy, incredible. North Carolina, a team that I feel bad for every North Carolina fan watching the broadcast, because I think that they're contractually obligated to bring up once every inning that they've been how many times and not yet won it. But that'd
be 13, Ryan.
Yeah, is it 13? Is that? Are we all sure on that? Are we 100%?
3 to the champion? Just 3 to the championship series or championship game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've lost 3 times in 06 and 07 to Oregon State, and then this time.
I don't know what we saw more, that graphic or the Kendall Wells home run chasing package that we were all tired of. But it's something, too, that, John, you were there in 2022, right? And this was a team that didn't just capture the hearts and minds of just college baseball fans, but this is a team that I think the OU fan base really connected with. And I think circumstances were a little bit different in 2022 when it comes to, you get to the Champ Series, and as much as Oklahoma fans liked that team, that was Ole Miss going for the first time they've won anything anywhere. And so I think you're going to get a little bit different oomph, but it was night and day watching, whether it be all your guys' photos and videos from inside the stadium, whether you're just listening on the radio or watching on the broadcast and being able to hear all that through. It was a night and day different showing out from Oklahoma fans. And I think that there was a little bit of that 2022, but a lot of it just that they wanted to go watch this team because it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah. Don't forget that 2022 team won 45 games in the regular season. and they had 11 players drafted, which was the most of any team in the country. So that was a really, really good baseball team in 2022, and everybody knew it. I don't think anybody knew or realized that they were good enough to get to the national championship series like they did. But once they did, there was a hey, we can do this kind of feeling among the fan base and among the teams. And then they get there and the 0-2, with the tough call on the one pivotal game against Ole Miss that sunk them. But this team, 34 wins in the regular season. We talked about it, 11th in the SEC. They go into the NCAA tournament, and this is what I was referring to with their Red October. They beat number 2, number 3, number 5, number 7, and number 15. And the amount of wins that they compiled against those teams, most wins in NCAA history against a seeded opposition. So 9 wins against NCAA tournament seeded 16. What is that? Top 16 teams. 9 wins against the top 16. Never been done before. So just remarkable. Lots of talent, and Jackson Willits mentioned this, I think, in the post game the other night. We knew we had talent on this team, but when you put the talent with the coaching, with the will, with the toughness and the resilience and the attitude, that's what you get. You get a national champion. So impressive to watch.
Carson, it was cool too to see not just Trey and Dayton Taki as far as that goes, the Dayton chance heater, but Jackson Willits, who does end up as your most outstanding player at the College World Series, one of the 4 OU players on the All CWS team, with Willits getting the big star next to him, and you wrote about Jackson, and just it's the immediate, ESPN rushes out, and immediately after you can just see the emotion of, he didn't dream of winning a college baseball national championship. He dreamed of winning one at Oklahoma with the Oklahoma, to see that come true, and to see a guy who. The Willits family obviously means so much to this program, just top to bottom. Everybody in the Willits family. I can't think of some more incredible, just story arcs and things like that with some of the veterans on this Oklahoma team.
Yeah, no, it's pretty remarkable. You look at the year that he's had, becoming a father, obviously, winning a national championship in his home state with his father as the hitting coach. I mean, it's something out of a Disney movie, it seems like. And it's just such a fitting, if this is the end, obviously he is only a junior, so he can come back. Chances are he's going to be picked in the first 5 or 6 rounds of the MLB draft. Most people in that situation would probably take whatever professional contract it ends up being. But if it is the end, I mean, such a remarkable way to go out, just playing under your father, playing under Skip, who obviously you were very, very close to, doing this all in front of your family. It's just really cool.
And speaking of Skip, it was something that I know that Hoov, you and Carson were busy doing all the work and everything that comes with that. Aber, I don't know how you took in Monday night, but I spent so much time, and it had nothing to do with the fact that they pick up coverage right after, and Manny Machado goes yard, and I was like, I'm done with this. So I'm just scrolling on Twitter, and I kept coming back to everything that Hoov and Carson were posting, everything that all the OU beat guys were down there, and just I kept finding myself trying to find Skip in the photos, in the videos. We're really, really lucky on radio. Skip sets aside a ton of time to just talk nonsense with Eddie and I basically every single Thursday. He gives us all the time in the world. He's one of those guys that a very old school coach that everyone that reports on script knows. If you ever need anything, you just pick up the phone, call, and he's just like, yeah, what do you need? That kind of stuff. But Ryan, I don't think I've ever seen Skip Johnson smile so much. I don't ever think I've seen him so happy. Now, I've never come across him when he's mid fish or mid hunt, so I don't know if that what that side of Skip looks like, but it's really, really cool for a guy, a baseball lifer, 3 decades plus, and to spend so much time next to one of the all-time icons and legends of the game, but to be able to be the top name on the lineup card and the one that handed it in and things like that, and get it done himself, especially in the context of that 2020 team never got to see how good they could be because the season shut down, one of the hottest starts in school history. The 2022 team getting so close. To see him come back in 2026 in a year that had been pretty frustrating by the end of it, and kind of have this, it couldn't happen to a nicer dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember talking to him the year that he was the pitching coach at OU under Pete Hughes after Augie Garrido had been sort of pushed out at Texas, and you just baseball just oozes out of this guy. The way that he can talk about the game and not just his team, but the philosophy around the sport and pitching. I mean, there's a reason why, we talked about the way he brought this pitching staff together, but there's a reason why Clayton Kershaw can't say enough good things about Skip Johnson. But it's not just pitchers. It's, Chris Davis a few years ago when Chris Davis was still playing with Baltimore, played in the Little League game in Williamsport, and they had to write like somebody that they were playing for that inspired them to get to the big leagues. And Chris Davis wrote Skip's name on his sleeve. And I think those things speak. I mean, Corey Kluber, another great pitcher that, Skip Johnson was, did great things with and for. And this guy loves the sport in a way that, I hope for everybody that they love something the way that he loves baseball. And to see him be able to do that, I'm always been the old school journalist. I say I don't ever root for players or for teams, not necessarily players, but you got to be happy for a guy like that, and a guy who's carried himself so well and done such big things for a lot of people to finally have a chance to hoist that trophy and like you said, be at the top of that lineup card. And it's funny, I haven't kept in close contact with Skip since I stopped covering baseball regularly, but just reached out to him and said congratulations. And yesterday, with as much stuff as he's got going on, I'm sure still got back to me very quickly, and just such a good dude on top of everything else. But I think that goes, up and down the lineup. And also, y'all were talking about, sorry to keep going here, but y'all were talking about Jackson Willits and his dad and everything. But how about the job that Reggie Willits did? And this team, as much as they, personified Skip Johnson, they did the same thing to Reggie Willits. Reggie Willits wasn't, nearly as highly thought of prospect as his sons have turned out to be. Just a guy who grinded his way into the big leagues, and this team grinded its way into a championship and did it, in a way that I thought really signified sort of the kind of player and person that Reggie Willits is and was.
I want to add something to that real quick since you were talking about Reggie, Ryan, and that is I covered him as a player in 2002 and 2003, transferred junior college from Seminole State. Local kid, Fort Cobb, Broxton, small school, consolidated school, obviously, and such an incredible baseball talent. Well, among the people that I interviewed, talked to, caught up with after the game, I just posted a story at noon today. Check it out. It's on the website, Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. Among the guys who I talked to was a guy by the name of Eric Thomas. Who remembers Eric Thomas, the left fielder and leadoff hitter for that 1994 team? He was a longtime coach under Larry Koshel, and he worked with Sonny and was real close with those guys. He actually recruited. He said, my favorite player that I ever coached and recruited was Reggie Willits. He said, I recruited Reggie Willits to Oklahoma. Now, if Eric Thomas, who played on that 94 team, doesn't recruit Reggie Willits to Oklahoma, does he go to OU? Does Jackson Willits go to OU? Is he the MVP of the World Series if he's not at OU? You know what I mean? The amount of threads going through this team and the families and who played for who and who was on that team in 94 and who wasn't and who came back, and it's just really remarkable. And then I'll add you a quick little Skip stories. After the last press conference on Monday night, Skip walks down and he walks across the podium and then walks down and back in front of us to leave the room. And he stops and shakes every reporter's hand who's still standing up or getting ready to leave or whatever. The in-town guys, the national guys, the local guys, the North Carolina guys, whoever standing in front of him, he was shaking hands. And he got to me and I said, look at you, Skip Johnson, you're a national champion. And he stops and he looks at me and goes, how about that? I said, yeah, just incredible. So it was a cool moment.
It was really cool to see. And something else that was really cool to see, John, we had mentioned the convoy of Oklahoma fans are up there. It felt like Jenny Baranczyk and Porter Moser and Barry Switzer had a residency up in Omaha. And I was thinking about this, and I'm really glad you wrote about it. What a start for Roger Denny. It's not really things that he did. He's hopping in, getting to learn on the job. And it's like, okay, KJ Kindler shows him this is what the standard is for OU women's gym. Skip Johnson steps in and shows him, okay, this is what it looks like here at Oklahoma. What a better time, though, for Skip in this baseball program at a time when, in my head, I think about it like this, John. Oklahoma's about to be fully funded in the SEC. They had a weird bridge year with the Big 12 buyout and trying to work on a shoestring and maneuver and make this thing work. If you get to the end of this year, they're going to start cashing that full SEC paycheck. And the idea behind that's going to be that Oklahoma should be able to pay for everything, right? Even in the rev share era, which is something that they saw coming, that they don't want to just have to fund football and then hope and pray that they'll be able to scrounge things together for everybody else. This is supposed to be where everyone's going to be able to eat. And he's talked about the resources that he needs to help Porter and keep things going with Jenny Baranczyk and things like that. I can't help but think what a time that Kimrey Family Stadium, they're 1-for-1. The Kimrey family wins national championships every year that their names outside up on the marquee, things like that. But how important is this going to be for Skip and Roger Jenny of now, that Roger's going to want to keep this going and keep funneling resources to Skip? Because as incredible as this is, no one's under any illusions, John, that Oklahoma's being funded baseball-wise at the same levels of LSU or anything like that. And to show that you can go to the SEC, it was one of the programs that we had said, I don't know how this thing's going to go, right? The baseball was one that's like, you are jumping into the deep end. Well, they're now on top of the mountain, and that's with what it is now. It feels like this can grow and be even bigger and better and just kind of be fuel to Skip's fire.
Yeah, I think baseball probably is the sport that had the furthest to go for Oklahoma when they when they moved from the Big 12 to the SEC. Baseball is the sport they were maybe the furthest behind. And that sounds strange coming off a national championship in 2022, which was after the announcement that they were moving to the SEC. But that established to me, that let you know what the SEC is. They've now won, seven consecutive national championships in baseball. So that tells you right there where OU was. Shocker. They win 45 games and they go to this Champ Series. It's a shocking event. They go to the SEC, they win 34 games, and they win the national championship, right? And it's just as shocking, but it just tells you, and Skip talked about this, the players talked about this, how the SEC has shaped them and molded them and formed them into what you're seeing now, which is a national champion. And I asked Roger Denny, I said, hey, this must feel easy for you. You walk in here and boom, you immediately win a national championship. And he goes, well, actually, this is our second since I've been here. And I thought, wait a minute. Yeah, women's gymnastics won in April. He joined the staff in late February, but the women's gymnastics team, I believe, had already started their schedule. So does Joe Castiglione still kind of get credit for that one? I don't know what the logistics are and the rules. No, I'm kidding.
We go back to the old college football day. We have shared champions. This will be a Joe C. and a Roger Denny, as well as KJ and Skip and everybody.
Yes. So, but no, he was very complimentary of Skip. He said he knew about Skip before not before he took the job, but before he got to Norman. Basically, he agreed to take the job and then immediately started calling around about his coaching staff. Hey, what do you know about this guy? What do you know about that girl? And immediately the feedback on Skip was, oh, you got a real one in Skip Johnson. This guy you're going to love him. He is a serious baseball mind. He who doesn't take himself too seriously, but he takes the game seriously, and that he just lives and breathes baseball. So. Roger was very fired up, like a lot of the people I talked to. I must have talked to 15 or 20 different, people from different walks of the different areas of the program, not just players, not just coaches, but administrators and, the whole administrators' kids and, it was, and the vibe was, everybody was just like pointing fingers at Skip saying, that's our guy. That's the reason we're here.
Yeah. Something that I know, always talking to the great Greg Tipton, the sports admin, and does a lot of deputy AD, very, very much. He works hand in hand with Skip, and he can never say enough about it. And Carson, when you look at it, we know that like the off the field stuff, the facilities, there's a plan in place. They're going to want to continue to push that forward. But we've talked about a couple of times here throughout this run, you fire up the, hey, draft picks since whenever, draft picks over the last 5, 10 years, whatever, for the World Series field, stuff like that. Oklahoma baseball and Skip, really high up there in that. Now they've got a national championship, and now, they'll have to lock everything down, and it's the world of NIL and the portal and all that stuff. But you're telling me that you can bring back. Skip talks all the time about, hey, who out there has to replace their entire weekend rotation and comes back and feels great the next year? Well, guess what? Oklahoma has a prime opportunity to lock down Cord Rager and Xander Mercurius and Nick Lazowski and say, we just won a national title with a freshman trio. Why not bring those guys back and battle every single weekend in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, from a pitching perspective, it looks like it's going to be incredible next year, assuming they can retain all three of those guys. Seeing how hot they looked in the postseason just really caught fire at the right time. And seeing, obviously, Rager, as you talked about earlier, he was a back end of the rotation guy early in the year. Now he's looking like he might be the Friday starter coming into 2027. He just looked fantastic. Xander Mercurius and Nick Wazlowski, definitely not perfect pitchers by any means, but two guys that are going to be sophomores that you can already feel really, really good about. I think the batting order is going to be more of something that's going to be more of a chore to replace, seeing how many guys are older into their college careers. A lot of guys are going to be drafted, and we'll have some choices to make. So that's going to be an interesting piece of it, I think. And I mean, kind of piggybacking off of what you guys said, this conference is still really, really dang good. And outside of Missouri, I think there are 15 teams in this league that if you tell me that team's going to win the national championship, I wouldn't be like, oh, there's no way. I think most of the teams in this league are talented enough, have the resources to do so. So now it's just building off of this monumental win. I mean, it is so difficult. You see the amount of good programs that have gone several times to Omaha, just gotten so close and never won. It is a hard thing to do, and now OU's done it for the third time in the program's history, once in the modern NIL SEC era that they're playing in. So there's no discounting at that, and that should not be overlooked quickly. But now it's about building something even more. We see the kind of hangover effect that a lot of teams have after winning a national championship, trying to avoid that, still be in contention for regional hosting, and of course, getting back to Omaha. So there's a lot of stuff that obviously this team should celebrate for a good deal of time, and they don't have to worry about class. Games, certainly not for a long time, but it is something that they're going to want to move pretty quickly, get some more good portal pieces. Obviously, they've gotten some good ones already. Carson Brumbaugh from Arkansas, the older, I believe, older brother of Caden Brumbaugh on OU's roster. He's coming in from Arkansas. That's a big get, getting some other pitchers, position players. I think this team has a really good foundation built and could really build on this, unlike most teams have done recently after winning a national championship.
Hey, we'll see what the draft has in store for everybody. That's always one of those things. You got some guys like Dayton Taki and Trey Gamble that are graduated out, and just even as we've been on the podcast, Drew Dickerson reportedly headed to the portal. Alec Blair reportedly headed to the portal as far as that goes. But as Carson said, they're off and running with portal editions of their own, and so many times you look at this and it's a business these days. It's the NIL world, all that stuff. I find it really, really hard for anyone that was currently in the portal with some big time offers. If you see Ryan Gaines make the call, or you're on the phone with Skip and you're watching this Oklahoma team, I find it hard pressed that there's not going to be a ton of other portal targets out there that are like, man, that group, not only did they just dominate and kick butt all throughout the NCAA tournament, they look like they had a ton of fun doing it. It looked like a fun place to be.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and this is going to be an attractive destination for a lot of people. I think getting Brumball, that was a big ad for them out of the portal, and just sort of another gut punch for Arkansas, who we talk about all those SEC champions, and as good as Arkansas baseball has been, and as good as their fan base is at supporting that sport, they're not one of them. I know Hoov knows all about this, but I saw a lot of Arkansas fans that I still follow on social media that were grumbling about that, and it just what a run again. But they're every indication is that they're using this to build momentum to take the next step in a program, and I know it feels silly saying this after they just won a national championship, but you've got to make it sustainable and give yourself a chance to do this every year, especially when you're in this league. and it seems like they're at least taking steps in the direction to be able to be competitive on a year-to-year basis versus just a one-year thing.
We'll see too is Major League Baseball has obviously put some stuff forward that would radically change roster construction as far as who is coming in and playing college baseball, how long they're staying in college baseball, stuff like that. I know that it's great to look back and go, man, if Bobby Witt Jr. had gotten 2 years or Eli Willis had gotten 2 years. The fact of the matter is that Skip was really good at building those relationships too. I know those guys had connections obviously to Oklahoma, but it's not the only premium top end like high school talents that have been attracted by Skip Johnson and the entire coaching staff. So excited to see as that continues to get going. We're recording right now afternoon on Wednesday. Looking forward to Wednesday night. They'll be out at Kimrey Family Stadium. Carson will be there for us covering the champ celebration. Anytime you get Skip Johnson in a public speaking role, like in front of everybody, I don't think it'll go too long as far as Skip goes, but can't wait to see what that's going to look like. There were a ton of OU fans in Omaha, but this will be a great chance for the OU fans that weren't able to make the trip or couldn't get off work or whatever to really post up and celebrate this crew as they went on one of the. It's not just a magic run for Oklahoma. You look at who have you mentioned it. You look at some of the advanced metrics as far as like toughest runs through Omaha, through a World Series, things like that. And Oklahoma is right at the top in all of them. So it'll be a championship that is remembered for a very, very, very long time, and excited to see what else Skip Johnson has for everybody here in years to come, Hoov.
I have a hope that a lot of people are going to turn up tonight. The weather's going to cooperate, and the place is going to be sold out. You know what I mean? It's just going to be packed. That's what my hope is, because right now, I was just looking at the 24/7 Sports rankings of SEC baseball attendance. Average baseball attendance in the SEC is 5,800. Oklahoma average this year, according to this 24/7 report, 16 conference games, averaged 2,016 per game, 2,000 fans per game. That ranks 15th out of the 16 SEC teams, just ahead of Missouri, who only averaged 1,200. At the top, you've got Mississippi State, 11,500, LSU, 11,100, Arkansas, 9,500, Mississippi, 9,200, Texas 7,200, South Carolina 65, Florida 6,000, Tennessee, Auburn, A&M even averages 57, Alabama down there near the bottom at 3,800, more than 3,800 per game. Oklahoma is just behind Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Georgia in the number of fans that they average per game. So you want to see those numbers. You want to see those numbers grow in the future. You want to see this College World Series national title produce some fruit. Kimrey Family Stadium is a destination, but it's going to be even better in the future when they get finished with all the renovations, all the projects, all the spending. It's going to be a palace. It's going to be a baseball palace, and it's going to be worthy of the SEC. Now the secret, Ryan Chapman, as you mentioned in a text message earlier in the week, if Skip can sustain what's happening right now and produce a College World Series contender every year, produce a winning program, a championship winning program every year, someone who's going to compete in the SEC for the championship every year, not have to win it, but compete for it, then I think you'll start to see that fan base grow. You'll start to see that interest continue to grow, and you'll start to see bigger numbers across the board for everything regarding OU baseball.
And I think too, Aber, that we saw a little bit of the 2022 team brought a little bit more of that in the, that regional that was super well. I don't know if you would have seen that in years past, and I think it's just grown and grown and grown. And Skip has not shied away from, loves all the fans that come, but he's always said, we need more, need a bigger atmosphere, things like that. And I think this will be a great opportunity to certainly continue that growth process, Aber.
Yeah, I think, just listening to Hoover read off those numbers, and yes, they've got to make progress there and get people out more consistently. But I would love to see the numbers from the few years before that, because they had been, trending in a positive direction, especially, it's been quite a while now, but started the outfield bunch there that started to build a fan base. And now you've got to imagine that that's going to take a big step forward. But it'll be interesting to see how many people are out there tonight. Should be a great celebration of this team, this program, and a next stepping stone for what this program, what that ballpark can become.
Ryan, real quick, your attendance for the 2022 team that went to the College World Series and produced 11 MLB draft choices, those guys that were really, really good, won 45 games in the regular season, they finished averaging for the entire season, not just the SEC, but for the entire season, they only averaged 1,600 per game. So that shows you in just 4 years since going to the National Championship Series how this program has grown and expanded and gotten money in from the Kimrey family, gotten donations to where the facility is worth so much more and is worth taking your family to a ball game now. It used to be just a kind of a concrete thing with some kind of a hole dug out, and they put a diamond around it, put a fence and some nice grass, and it was a good field, but you had concrete bleachers and aluminum bleachers on concrete, and it was just like, okay, it's just a baseball stadium. Now it looks totally different, and in 5 years from now, maybe another College World Series run, who knows? But 5 years from now, it's going to look even more totally different then than it does now. So a lot of growth ahead for this program and the people who love it.
It'll be the perfect close on basically the 2025-2026 seasons, academic year, all that fun stuff. And suddenly we'll look up and we're just a couple weeks away from SEC Media Days and getting to Tampa and all that fun stuff, and really the full-on march to the college football season, something that will affect college football and everybody. Elsewhere in the world of college sports, the D1, I think this one was the cabinet. I can't even remember if it's the cabinet, the committee, which C of the D1, but they've rubber stamped, they've approved the new 5 years to play 5, where basically eliminating red shirts, either your enrollment or your 19th birthday, whichever starts first, you'll have 5 years. Don't have to worry about 4 years plus 4 games for football, stuff like that. The exceptions being going on mission, military service, then pregnancy as far as that goes. It will not include anyone that finished their senior year concluding in the spring 2026 semester will not magically get an extra year going, but everybody else will be able to rock and roll there, which will have long, massive ripple effects across everywhere, in all sports, on all campuses across the country. But Carson, more than anything, I'm just happy for 2 reasons. One, we're simplifying things. We're not having to do back of the napkin math of how many games has this person played in, and that, and this, and that, all that stuff. How many 7 different waivers has the NCAA given? But also, we know football has had a red shirt rule. Nobody else has been able to figure that out. And I'm excited for the basketball programs on campuses, the softball and baseball, and everybody actually being able to have that same opportunity to develop and still have the carrot out in front of freshmen that maybe aren't ready to go from day one, but still being like, no, you can contribute, you can get experience, you can keep going, and still it doesn't count against their year or take anything away. I think this is going to be the rare W for the NCAA.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I don't really see much pushback from anyone about it. I know Brent Venables last year said that it was admittedly challenging, as big as that OU football staff is, to do that math. Oh, is this guy played in 4 games? Is it only 3? Can we put this guy in late in this blowout win? Missouri's only scored 6 points. Maybe we could give him some reps. Now they really don't have to worry about that. And I think that's big for not only OU staff, but staffs on every campus around the country. And to your point about the smaller sports, or I say smaller, basketball, baseball, big sports that don't have the same redshirt rules as football. Getting to give some of these guys innings, minutes, whatever it is, in maybe even lopsided competition, just getting some sort of game experience in your first year, opposed to having to sit out the entire time. You feel for some of these true freshmen that didn't get to play any during this magical baseball run that they went on. So just having that across the board, I think it's something that benefits, or at least should benefit, every campus across the country. So, like you said, I think this is a win.
Here in the months that come on, we'll maybe target in on the various programs across campus and who are going to be the big beneficiaries currently on campus from things like that. But that'll be something that we carry through here these next couple of weeks. I mean, elsewhere, money getting handed out in the NBA realm. Trae Young and Austin Reeves both cashing out very on different coasts, one in Washington, one in LA, obviously. So good vibes there. But otherwise, we're about to hit, I think, a couple of weeks of the true dog days until everybody in the SEC makes their way down to Tampa. And it's a well-earned rest for guys like Hoov and Carson, who have been absolutely grinding here. If you guys missed any of it, be sure you head Oklahoma Sooners on SI com. All over our front page. You can click on the baseball tab and just keep scrolling. They've got content on content on content from the stay in Omaha. Carson, I'm off the field. I know you're down there for the Champ Series, but it's one of the spectacles in college athletics, just in sports in general. What are you going to remember? Not just the dog pile and stuff like this, but when you look back on Omaha 2026's Oklahoma team, what's something that might not be the first thing that pops up on the ESPN package, but it's probably going to stick with you for a long time from that Omaha trek?
I mean, I think it just has to be the under the radar guys that stepped up in the biggest moments, like Dayton Taki. I mean, they're not there without his swing against Georgia Tech in the 10th inning. Kyle Branch, who admittedly struggled in Omaha, having that late home run, a huge hit, and I believe that was game one. Just some of these under the radar guys, Mercurius going back to him, awful middle of the season, awesome postseason for him. Just the true underdog story of those guys, but this whole team being the 11th best team in the SEC in the regular season. And I've said this on the podcast, it felt like they were that or worse heading into the NCAA tournament. This was a team playing bad baseball, and suddenly, when it mattered most, they were the best team in baseball. Just pretty remarkable. And I know I tweeted this too. If you've never been to Omaha, you've got to go at least once in your life if you're a sports fan. It is remarkable. Whether your team's playing or not, me and my dad went up in 2017. We got the general admission book. They don't do this anymore, no general admission seating, but it was dirt cheap at that point. Got to see all 8 teams there, and it was just magical. This time being a media member, similarly awesome getting to see all the OU people that came out, the UNC people that came out. It is truly, I don't know if unmatched is the right word, but there's nothing like it. There really is nothing like the experience in Omaha, so you got to check it out. It was a fun 72 hours, I guess, out there.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was hard to believe that it was unfolding like it was. That OU just went out and kicked the crap out of everybody in bracket play. I know 4-3 against Georgia, but just what's going to stand out to me is probably 2 things I would say. One is Dasan Harris's throw. That was sick. That was just on. I know he can play outfield. I know he's got a good arm. He's a good player, but to make that throw in that moment and to create this line of separation that we are over here, we're OU, and we're going to do this, and you are now North Carolina, and you are less than us. You are beneath us. You are going to lose this game. That was the delineation for me. But the real thing that's going to stand out is, catching the people around the program. I was lucky enough to catch the people around the program. Like the Eric Thomas situation, where he said, the left fielder and leadoff guy for the 94 team that won a national championship was in on the dog pile. He said, we just want to be a team, the 94 guys, we want to be guys that get together for reunions. We don't want to be the team that everybody calls every time OU goes to the College World Series. We don't want to be that team, that last Sooner team to win a national championship. We want these guys to experience that, and then we'll just go off and be the team that has a little reunion every year or something like that. So I thought that was really poignant. That the '94 bunch, there was 12 or 13 guys there at the stadium every night. Every night, somebody from the team was flying in. Somebody had to go to work, so there was a dozen guys there every night, and they just wanted this team to experience that joy and that, unbridled kind of ecstasy that they did in those moments. And, here we are. They did exactly that. And the 94 team was just so grateful to be a part of it and effusive with their praise and just couldn't get enough of these guys. And I thought that was a really cool full circle moment.
And how about the fact that not only Eric Thomas, but also Tim Walton came there from the Florida softball coaching staff to be a part of that. Didn't see if Kenny Gajewski was up there. I don't know if it's as easy for him to fade back into being an OU guy.
I was sure hoping he would. I was sure hoping he would show up.
Well, he himself has said it's impossible to have a legacy at 2 different schools. That no one has ever been able to do. Oh, Kenny has. Oh, that's who. See if Kelly Maxwell made her way up to. No, never mind. So the one thing
but
that
Cassidy Pickering did.
Yeah, she did. It was a big. I will always think of. And I think I only thought of this because I was watching a lot of these games with my mom as we were traveling. The number of times she just looked over and she said, "I could not imagine being Mrs. Mercurius, where I feel like at times entire games are resting, like even if you're in the parent sections, entire games are resting on your shoulders when it goes from Xander to LJ or LJ's coming. I'm glad that she was able to continually make her way out there because it's a long haul for everybody. So an absolutely incredible run. It will throw us into the off season. Next week, we'll do a lot of catch up on some other stuff we missed. The portal's raging on the softball side of things. We'll see what Oklahoma baseball has done, the moves that they've made as well. We'll kind of set the table for July as we go straight into the middle of summer workout slash the team-led OTAs, which is kind of what July is about on the football front. And by the time that we circle back to July, it'll be like, holy cow, boys, we'll be 2 weeks away from Texas Tech crying like babies. I mean, going to Big 12 Media Day, and I'm sure that that'll be handled great. And then, like we said, suddenly we'll be in Tampa, and the eyes will be on the SEC world, which would be kind of incredible as far as that goes. Be sure you head to the website, OklahomaSooners.com. Everything completely free. And trust me, it's 1 o'clock right now on Wednesday as we record this. There was no way from Monday night through 1 o'clock today at Wednesday we could get just physically all of the great content that Hoov and Carson both took in, produced, all that fun stuff. So it's going to keep rolling out here all throughout Wednesday into Thursday, probably carrying you into the weekend. So be sure headed there, OklahomaSooners.com. You can read every bit of copy from these boys as they did a fantastic job out there in Omaha. But that's all we got for today. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. We'll kick off July in style. Like I said, we'll play some catch up on everything else from the off season as it kind of rolls on. But big thank you as always to Aber. Very, very happy that Hoov and Carson both had safe travels back in. Give some extra pets to the pups too, because I know what it's like to be away from it a little bit too long. But until next time, for Aber, for Carson, for Hoov, I'm Ryan Chapman. We'll talk to you guys next week here on the Sooners on SI podcast.